Hello, welcome to Wedding Pros Unplugged. I'm Misty Coolidge, owner of Coolidge Family Farm, Coolidge Chapel, and main mixologist. And you are
Kim Chapman Dionne, owner of Kim Chapman Photography, been a photographer for 22 years.
amazing. I love that. So we're here today to talk to Kim about the photography business, when hiring a photographer, some tips and tricks. But first, Kim, why don't you start out by introducing yourself? What do you do, and how did you get started in doing this?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I am Kim Chapman Dionne, like everybody, like Kim Chapman Photography I started photographing children in the late 90s, and then a senior saw some of my work on a wall somewhere and asked me to do their senior portrait. I'm like, I'm not doing that. What else? So I did, and it was kind of fun. And that same senior asked me to do her wedding. And I'm like, I am not doing weddings. There's just no way. But she talked me into it. I was pregnant. I was 5 months pregnant.
Wow.
And of course, I tried to look really cute pregnant, and I wore the wrong shoes. I didn't have the right flash. But you know what? If you look at my work from then, it's not that different. I really impressed myself. I thought, oh wow, okay, maybe I can do this. And I liked the money. That was a motivator. Um, so I took that wedding, and I this was back when we put photos in an album.
Oh, yeah.
That was my portfolio, an album. I would meet couples in person. Imagine that back then. And I took that one wedding and I made it look like different weddings, but it was just one wedding. But I kind of lied and I said, oh, yeah, I've done a few weddings. Here's my portfolio. And I got another wedding. And then I was off to the races.
Yes.
I was very surprised that I really, really liked it. I didn't think that I would. I love the people and I love the vendor family. That's what I love. Every pretty much everywhere I go, especially when I go to places like, Peaks or your venue, it's like family. Um, I love that. That's what keeps me going. And a lot of people wonder why I'm still doing it because a lot of photographers burn out after, I think it's 5 years.
Wow. That's it?
They really do. 10 at max, and I'm 22 in.
Wow. I didn't
Either
know
I'm
that.
crazy or I'm something special. I probably
I
don't.
always say there's no such thing as crazy. It's passionate. It's your passion.
I'm
That's the
very,
better word.
yeah, I'm really, really passionate, and I love seeing my images and being like, it's an adrenaline rush. Like, I did that, and you go on the next. And I love editing. And I wanna knock it out of the park every single time. And I don't know where that comes. I guess I do have a competitive edge, and so I just want to keep getting better and better and better, like any artist. And I continue to feel that way. I want to learn more and more. There's so much I still don't know. Um, so yeah. Um,
And I think that part of your job that makes it different from mine, like as a venue owner, I look forward to the photographer's photos. Like I can't
right.
wait to see how they captured the day and my venue and my couple. And when I scroll, I'm like, oh my God. And oh my God, that was such an
Only if
amazing.
you have a professional photographer, not a friend.
Well, I mean, I think that everybody there are, and that's a good question to lead into. Why hire a professional versus a non-professional? Like, what are some tips and things to think of? Because some couples with smaller budgets may not be able to afford a higher end photographer, but the things that to be considered when you're looking at a photography is what's the difference between what they're going to get for $800 as opposed to $4,000? Like, what should they be thinking of, Kim?
Well, I mean, over the years, I've learned so much. Yeah, I mean, somebody just starting out isn't going to be know how to deal with the different lighting conditions. The sun, if the sun is out and the wedding, you have to shoot sometimes at high noon. Um, you have to understand it's not necessarily going in the shade, but you can shoot into the sun, but you need to, and that way they get rim lit. But you need to be able to know how to do that. If it rains, you're gonna have to shoot indoors. Some barns, like your barn, like every barn, they don't have white ceilings where you can bounce your flash. So you really need to be doing what's called off-camera flash. You put your flash on a stand and you can control it from your camera, but the flash is behind the couple. You might have two of them, or else it's going to look terrible. I'm just going to, can I
Mhm.
say shit on this? It's going to look like
Sure.
shit.
Let's drop those bombs. I love it.
Well, we can because we're on,
We're unplugged.
we're unplugged. Um, the flow of the day, I'm always one step ahead. Like this is a lame example, but if you're in the reception and they've just sat down, everybody tends to clink their glasses for them to kiss. I don't go anywhere. I stay right there. I know that's going to happen. Little thing. Oh, my husband just got home. Little things like that. Um, gosh, contracts, the cost of doing business. You've got to charge quite a bit. The hours that are involved with this. I don't think friends understand. There's
Mhm.
administrative work, there's contracts, there's driving, there's prep, there's insurance, there's shooting all day long. There's, if you have
Editing, all the editing hours. How long does it take to edit a wedding, Kim?
as long as you're shooting the wedding. So, my photographer friend Russ Karen told me that each wedding constitutes about 24 hours of work for each wedding. That's a lot. And add those up, you'll see.
Yeah.
And that includes driving, of course. And sometimes weddings are not close. Um,
Like how many average number of pictures do you take at a wedding?
well, I tend to I tend to overshoot because I've taken some workshops and I tend to shoot through a moment. So I'm click, 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 and then I pick the right one for that moment,
Yeah.
especially during the ceremony. So I'm only taking one out of like 6 shots. But my couples end up with about 60 to, no, about 80 to 100 images per hour. I shoot a little bit.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Um, it's just
What do
mostly
you
unexpected circumstances that arise that I've dealt with a million times. Sometimes you have 5 minutes to shoot the couple. If you have 5 minutes to shoot the couple and you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be able to knock it out of the park.
depending on if that couple has hired a professional planner or not and has a thorough timeline to factor in all of the vendor's needs. I think that's really important too,
Yeah.
because photography is all you have left after your wedding is your video and your photographer and your photos. So having those two people be key. And for me, I think personality plays into it a lot. Wouldn't you agree? Like the photographer was the last person that I hired when I planned my wedding because I wanted to interview them. I wanted to know that they had a great personality because your planner and your photographer are the two you as a couple you're going to be conversing with all day. So
Hmm.
you want to love them. You want to be and I just think that's really the two that's those are your two most important people at your wedding. I really think is your planner and your photographer.
I'm
And
the,
and a video person.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm there when the bride is in her underwear. I mean, I'm there that early. She's getting hair, makeup. I don't shoot underwear, don't worry. I like boudoir. I do that later in my studio. Um, but yeah, I'm there all day. I think it takes a special person to do weddings in any capacity, really, because you, I, so, I mean, it's understandable. People are nervous. It's their wedding day, and sometimes they're at their best, and which is understandable. They've got their mother-in-law there, they've got their mother there, they've got everybody in that room, and um,
It's
but
a lot of
I've learned,
pressure.
hmm,
It's a lot of pressure.
it's a lot of pressure. So I've just learned to deal with every single personality there is. And the more stressed out people are, the more relaxed I get. I know that sounds strange. Another
No.
photographer said the same thing. I just go with I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
everything's cool.
Yeah.
Everything's,
Well, I think that
have
comes
the
with
ability.
experience. That
Yeah,
comes with
of course.
experience. Like I've had many parents say to me, "Geez, Misty, I can't even tell you're the wedding planner. You're so calm and you're so relaxed." And I was like, "Because I have 16 years of doing this. Like I've put out all the fires. Like as a
Same.
photographer, you've dealt with all the things. You know how to handle it. You're a people person. I think being a people person is really
You have to be a
important."
people person. But you're also
Yes.
a psychiatrist, you're a photographer, you're a nurse, you're a laundry steamer person, you're
You know
um
how to bustle. You know how to bustle.
I'm a bustler, I'm a
You
dress,
can put on boutonnieres.
I'm a boutonniere putter on her. Yeah, all the things. Speaking of that though, that one thing should be the planner. They should have the boutonnieres. They should have the mother in that room at a certain time because that happens over and over and over and over again where I have to put on the boutonniere, which is fine. I know how to do it really well, but there's no photos of that if I do it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's, I'm just passionate about I think that is the key. You have to be passionate. You have to love what you do, and then you just keep going and going and want to get better and better. Um, and I've got that. And also, not very many photographers do this, believe it or not, but I blog every single wedding. And the fact that I blog, I know people are going to see it. So, it's like doing a play and if nobody's in the audience, you kind of might not try as hard. People are going to see my weddings all over the place. So that, steps it up a notch for me because, like I said, I have a competitive edge in a good way.
Well, and that blog, that's a really good point, Kim, is that most photographers don't blog. Some of them do, but most don't. So if you want your photography to tell a story about your day and have that blog to have for in the future, I think it's really amazing that you do that for your couples because it's very rare, especially for if they want to get their wedding published, which is another whole episode, and shooting for that vision and that eye and having that. And like I tell some of my couples when they tour me, I say photography is really important. If you have an overcast or rainy day or any kind of inclement weather, your photographer is going to know the lighting and maybe create a fake sunset for you. Like I love sunset photos. That's probably one of my favorite pictures of my wedding is my sunset photos.
Mhm.
And having a photographer that knew how to create a sunset when there was no sun, I
I've
think
done that.
is
Yeah.
yeah, you can good photographers can do that for you and can create the looks and edit things out that you want. Maybe you got a wrinkle on your dress that you hate after your wedding, and the photographer can edit that out. I think it's really important. And do you see any good tips in hiring a photographer? I think that's a good way a good question to ask.
You know what? I mean, back when we used to do in-person meetings, I haven't done an in-person meeting since COVID, but I feel like we should go back to that because whenever I had in-person meetings, I think I batted 1,000. I think I got every single wedding. You,
Mhm.
and I brought a physical portfolio, which is unheard of these days too, I guess. But you need to see how those images print. Anybody can make something look good online.
Mhm.
Um, but personality, experience, like I was saying, that off-camera flash is super important, especially if you do want that sunset. You
Mhm.
put you you can't have an on-camera flash. Although I will say, well, that's a different episode. Never mind. I'm talking about flash. Um, but yeah, personality, experience. You might want you might want a fun little memento and you might want a photographer that gets published in magazines a lot, which is me. Um, where's my see all those covers on the
Oh yeah,
wall?
your wedding covers. Those are so cool.
I mean, those are fun. And like I said, I do blog and I do have one magazine, maybe a couple that do look at my blog and say, hey, can I have this wedding? Maybe this photo from this wedding. It happens a lot. So that's fun. I do get published. And there's something to a photographer that does get published. It means their work is pretty good and it prints well. A photographer that does albums, a photographer that does their own editing. I'm really, really, I know a lot source out for their editing. They hire someone to edit their images, but I don't like that. I do it myself because I was there and I know who's important. I know what's important. And if you hire out, they're not gonna keep
That's a good
that
question to ask
marshmallow.
couples. For couples to ask their photographers, like, do you do your editing or do you farm some of that out? I think that's a really good question. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of really good ones do farm out, source out, farm out, same thing. But if they do that, you really have to work. You have to have the same editor and you have to work with that editor over and over and over again. And if you do send your wedding to that editor, you've got to say, this is important, even if these aren't fantastic photos. You need to have these grandparents. You need to have them around the fire because it was really important because that's how they got engaged or things like that. But that's,
Mhm.
I can just I do it myself. I'm really fast. I've been doing it forever. So,
What about average price points for photographers? Like what are photographers costing nowadays? Like what should couples know as far as price points are concerned and what's included in that?
um, photographers have an uncanny ability to price themselves out at what they're worth. So if you see $1,000 photographer, it's because they're just starting out and they're not that good and they know it. If you see a
Or
$10,000,
they're gaining experience. Not that they're not good, but they just don't have the experience that
well,
a
that's right.
seasoned
They
photographer
might
is going to
not know
be.
how to do off-camera flash. It took me
Because obviously
forever.
they want to get into business, so they think that they're good. Other people have told them that they're good. That's amazing. Like you should do this professionally, and maybe they will become a Kim Chapman, down the road.
Well,
You
they
know,
definitely, you have to start somewhere. I charged
absolutely.
$800 for my first wedding. I understand that, but I didn't want to do a cliff house wedding or a big ballroom wedding. I wasn't qualified, which is why I was $800. Then I moved to $1,200. Um, but it took me a long time to charge what I charge now because I'm like, I'm not good at this. I don't have the right lens. I'm not going to charge that much. I was actually really low for a long time.
Yeah. So
Now I
what is
have,
an average? What would say would be an average price for a seasoned photographer? What's your range?
um, I would an average. Um, you're gonna get a pretty good photographer if you pay 4 to 5,
Hmm.
starting 4 to 5 thousand, not 100.
Hmm.
Um, uh, if you, I guess if a photographer is under 3, I'd be very, very careful because there's a reason. There's always a reason. Um,
I mean, you can find them. Like I have a photographer. I mean, I have four photographers that I refer at my venue. You're one of them. But I have one that's a little bit less than that. But it's only because they only want to do a few weddings a year. So
right, they
they're
might have another
excellent.
job.
They do
I
have
do this
another
full
job.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
that's so
another
they're
job.
yeah.
But at that price point, um, you should be work. You're going to book a lot of weddings and you're going to get burnt out. Like I used to do 50 weddings a year.
That's a
I
lot.
don't know
That's too
how.
much.
Well, not, I think I only did that 1 year, but around my average was probably 30, 35. That's a lot.
I would say you're
Um,
going to get a decent photographer, but like 4 to 6 thousand is like I think is a good range. But that's a high end photographer. That's a seasoned professional. That is somebody that knows what they're doing.
mm,
Not that your $2,000 people don't know what they're doing, but you also get what you pay for as when it comes to that too. And what about engagement shoots? I know as a wedding planner and venue owner, I recommend engagement shoots to all my couples because for I've seen the relationship difference. So if I have on the wedding day, when a couple
interesting.
already knows their photographer because they've already shot with them, they're going to be so much more relaxed on the wedding day and really enjoy their time with the photographer and walking the property and being relaxed and having fun and cracking jokes. Because they're already going to be their friend, which I
Yeah.
think is so important.
Yeah.
So I tell my couples, I'm like, schedule an engagement shoot with your wedding photographer, not somebody else. Use your wedding photographer because when they show up on your wedding day, you're already going to know them, and I
Yeah.
think that's super special. As opposed to being like, "Hi, I'm Misty, and nice to meet you today," and hey, and let's shoot my wedding. I think
Well,
photographers should do engagement shoots for every couple.
I mean, but you can always meet them in person to have that connection too.
True. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to shoot with them, but I think it makes it better.
But it is nice because I've already photographed these people and I know
Their style.
their style. Yeah,
And they know yours.
yeah. And I will say it's very difficult. That's another reason. It's reason to hire someone that's very, very experienced. What works for one couple never works for another. Like if you like this great pose or your couple has a photo of another couple, I love this. You try to do it, you can't.
No.
And um it just, but
It's not going to be exact. They might be able to mirror it a little bit with their own personality.
yeah, in fact, it's really, really hard to pose anybody. So I've worked on a bunch of organic um ways that they can come across as organic. I might put them in a pose and then another pose and another pose and another pose and then say repeat those poses right in order and they won't be able to do it and they laugh. That's my shot. You know, little things like
Yes.
that. And it's a
Cracking humor. Yes.
trillion
Making
dollar
them
shot.
laugh.
Yeah, but you have to put them in the nice light
Mhm.
in order for that to be a knock it out of the park type shot.
I think
But
important question to ask you is hours. So I know at my venue, I have photographers that will be there for 3 hours and then they're gone. And I was like, where'd they go? I think, I mean, for if you were gonna recommend to a couple, what's that sweet spot in hours? Obviously couples are on budget, they're trying to save money, but I think photography is not where you save money.
no,
Because cutting back those hours, you're going to miss so much. And those are the really cool shots. So, what can you speak to hours? Like, what should they think
well,
about
me
when they?
personally, I charge per event. It's a half hour, I mean, not half hour, hour and a half before the ceremony, or if they're doing a first look, an hour and a half before the first look, to the last reception formality, which might be cutting the cake or whatever, into dancing 30 minutes. Anything more than 30 minutes, it's just kind of the same people out there over and over again. My husband, I say this to couples on the phone and he hears me, he laughs at me because he's a DJ and he's like, "What do you mean you're gonna leave after a half hour?" But it's the same people. They've been drinking, you get sweaty, it's so a half hour
But
is a
doesn't it take a
lot.
DJ? Doesn't it take a DJ a while to ramp up the crowds? And so you're going to get a bigger group picture if you wait just a little bit longer. You think you can get that in that sweet spot of half an hour?
That is a good point, and yeah, that's probably true. Um, if you want, so if I've gone up to my 8 hours and you want another hour, I'm happy to stay. Um,
Mhm.
in my experience, a lot of people don't buy those. They don't care about those shots, and it just takes me forever. They're paying for it, and then I have to edit it. It takes me forever to edit all those. I just don't think I mean, there are a lot of cool shots that I've had at the beginning of the night when the music first starts and they're all excited to get out there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
But it
Yeah.
is true. Like a lot of times I have been at a wedding with Dave has been the DJ, so I've had to stay because we ride together. And some of them at the end, I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be there, but I'll get up and grab my camera and those are my best shots. So yeah, but that's like a 10-hour day, 11,
Yeah.
12-hour day.
I had a photographer. I think I've only had this once in 10 years. And at the end of the night, the photographer was still there. And I was like, wow, like I'm so impressed that you're still here. He's like, I charge one rate. It's a flat rate. It's for the whole thing. Like I'm going to be here hours before for details. I'm going to be there for the last dance because a lot of couples now are doing a second dance at the end of the night in the venue by themselves. And they're just holding each other and it's romantic. And
Oh, a second
photographers would
first
never,
dance? A second dance
yeah, I
at
call
the
it a
end of the
second
night. Yeah, yeah,
second
yeah.
dance.
I've seen that because I have been there. I mean, I have been there. It's just that um
And usually you can hang out with like it's you're still there, I guess, so you're still working, but you've got like three if there's 3 hours of dancing, you're not shooting for 3 hours. Like you're mingling, you're hanging out, you're maybe grabbing a dessert because it's more downtime.
mhm.
But you're also when there is a really great song playing and people are like jumping, you can get that too, even if that's like 10 o'clock at night. So I always surprises me when photographers leave after the cake cutting. It's like, well, you're missing the party. Um,
So the moral of the story, hire me with my husband Dave, and I'll have to stay to the end and I pick up my camera even though I'm not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and that is a good point because there's a lot of teams nowadays in photography
Mhm.
and DJs and video and photography and videos. There's a lot of teams that work together nowadays too. So having hired one person for both, you're going to get more out of that,
Yeah.
um, for sure. Anything else in closing that you want to share about photography and what couples should know that I haven't asked you?
Um, well, like Misty said, at the end of the day, all you have left are your photos.
Mhm.
Um, and you and also I really highly, highly recommend you get an album because you know, you're not going to get the album out every day and look at the album. You're really not. But someday
Mhm.
you're going to want to reminisce. And what are you going to do? Get your laptop out and say, well, let me see if I can find, oh, it must be a different hard drive. Hold on. Let me see if you and show your wedding images that way. You want an album. You want an album. I haven't
And
looked in my,
do you put them together for the couples? Because I find that
I
I've had
do.
some couples say, "Just I ordered an album, but the photographer wants me to pick all the pictures out for it, and I don't have time for that." So then they never end up getting an album. I
Yeah.
think a photographer that jumps out by designing one first, and then the couple can make like an edit here. Like, I don't like that one photo. Can you put this one in
So I've been
instead?
doing this so long that I've done it both ways. I've had
Okay,
them choose and they never choose. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to design it. But then there are so many changes because I allow them to have as many changes as they want. There's so many changes and it just gets ridiculous sometimes. So then I went back to choose your own, but I do have in my contract you only have so much time to do it and it pushes them to do it. And it's fun for them
that's
once they
true.
sit down and because then I just take those images and basically just pop them in.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a little arranging. Like I might want the beautiful flower in with some people some details in with some people photos because too many people photos I think is boring. So you've got to,
You want details in there.
yeah, I know
Mhm.
how to do a album.
Like the beautiful peonies at the farm, like getting all of those little detail venue shots in with the photos is really cool.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how I do it in my blog too. As a matter of fact, I do my blog and then and my blog is very similar to my albums.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that only works when I choose the photos. So there's,
Yeah.
you know,
Do you send out teasers? Some photographers are like the next day, the couple will get like a teaser of
I
like some
do
of like 10 photos or something.
a sneak peek. Yeah, I
Sneak
mean,
peek.
my sneak
Thank
peek,
you.
I like to say my sneak peek is my blog because then it's more than one photo. It's just a bunch of photos put together and it tells the story of the day and you can share that with people. Um, but if it's, and I can do that early on, but if it's late in the season, I can't get that done. It probably takes me 2 to 3 weeks. Um, I'm s- so yes, I do. I give them a sneak peek if it's like late fall, September wedding, October wedding, when I'm so behind on editing. But I will say I'm super fast. I don't like anything in my inbox, so I will edit your wedding. I'll get it done and get it out the door. In my contract, I say I take 3 months, but I take more like 3 weeks. I can't. I've got to get it done.
And that's a really good point. Like, when should couples expect their photos back? Like, I've emailed couples and said, "Hey, I'd love to see your wedding photos," and like 6 months later, they don't have their photos back yet.
No,
I was like,
that's probably because they hired somebody that has another job, you know.
right,
Um,
that's very true.
so if you're like I have a Friday, June 6th wedding, that wedding will probably get done in 3 days. My October 11th wedding, it could take a while because when you've got two weddings in one weekend and weddings every single weekend, you get from me, for my standards, I get a little behind, but not like
Well, because
6 months. I would never.
you spend a ton of time.
I do because well, you know that.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
super
crazy
efficient.
editing, but you're really good at it.
Right. And then, one thing to keep in mind too is if you have a second shooter, it takes longer. You almost have twice as many photos.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I started before anyone had second shooters. It was kind of unheard of. So I know how to shoot by myself. So a lot of people do hire me by myself. And
Hmm.
you can't even tell the difference, really.
No, no, you're really good. Well, thank you, Kim, for talking about photography and your passion. I appreciate you. You know, you're a dear friend of mine, and I love working with you. So I refer you. You're on my preferred vendor list,
Oh,
and
good.
as well as I'm sure of a lot of other people as well, because you do have the experience that a lot of couples that I think couples need. Um, so thank you for being here. I know we are going to interview other photographers. You guys can chit chat back and forth, which is really key.
That'll be fun.
Um, yeah, so thank you for jumping in and allowing me to interview you. And let's have the
Yeah.
good rest of our day.
All righty. Bye, Misty. Bye, everybody. See you next time. More to come. More to unpack.